the one and only Leo Biaz. Hey, Leo.
I'm excited to be back, my man. It was 9 days in Vegas. We got stuck in the desert, and we had a little hangover remix out there, man.
I wore a wig to school once, and they said no headgear was allowed.
How did
spider web
was it
tights.
obvious that it was a wig?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was
It was
having
a terrible
fun.
wig.
See, this is exactly why we have them on the show, and this is what makes them fun.
You're listening to KXVS, the voice of Stockton, 92.1 FM.
My name is Josh, and you're listening to KXVS, the voice of Stockton, 92.1 FM. Catch us live on Facebook, YouTube, and the TuneIn app.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Good morning, Stocktonians, and welcome to another episode of Tales and Tips. I have the honor of having with me today Peggy Hetlage of Founder Rehab Ranch, and we'll be talking to her about an amazing horse rescue and rehab organization. I just want to give a couple PSAs before we get to that. On May 19th, United Cerebral Palsy is having their walk, and they are having it at Swenson Park, which is phenomenal. That is a win-win. I'm so excited that they're having that event at Swenson. Once again, that is going to be May 19th, and you can reach out to United Cerebral Palsy or Jill Fosso regarding tickets and signing up for that event. And Pixie Woods has their wonderful wine tasting to help to fundraise for Pixie Woods, another amazing park in Stockton. That is Friday, June 22nd at Pixie Woods. Tickets are $50 if you get them ahead of time. And you can get it's at various locations: Gary Long's Jewelers, Wine Wizards, Sorelli Winery, Macchia Winery, and also through board members such as Scott Graffius or Mary Panini. All right, and with no further ado, let's talk to Peggy. Welcome, Peggy. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Tell us about Founder Rehab Ranch. How did that get started? Who did you start that with? What do you do?
So we started in 2005. My sister and I started mostly taking care of foundered ponies. We began with a pony named Midnight, who came from a pony exhibit at Hayward and was severely compromised and couldn't walk. And that really started our adventure in continuing to rescue and rehabilitate horses.
And I have a pony who has foundered. For our audience that don't understand what that means, can you explain what founder is?
So founder is a disease that affects the hoof of the horse. They usually through metabolic, sometimes through illness, have a disconnection of the tissue of the hoof to the hoof wall, and it's very painful. The bones in the middle of the foot can move down in the foot and make it very, very difficult for them to walk. Sometimes it can be treated and sometimes not. It's pretty difficult, but we found with proper hoof care, with a very well-trained farrier, and also the proper diet and management and giving them time to heal, it can be treated and can be taken care of. But it's a very painful disease for the horse.
And it happened to my pony when he was on lush grass. He ate too much grass. He has Cushing's, and it commonly can happen related to metabolic disease, just like what you said. And it's unfortunate because it does happen in a lot of horses, and it is a reason that a lot of horses might be euthanized.
That's right. And the lush grass, it can be a real problem, and it can cause a normally healthy horse to have a temporary episode of the problem. Some have just kind of gotten advanced further, and also with Cushing's, and we've taken care of 10 or 15 horses with Cushing's over the years. We have one now. But that can mean a little more ongoing problems with their feet and seasonal changes. So it's a pretty devastating, but it's not impossible. And that's the thing that was nice for us to realize and be able to help people with, is that it can be treated, and you don't have to euthanize the horse just because they get it. So,
and that's awesome that you're there. And so when you take in, I want to understand more about how it happens that you take in a horse. But let's back up a little bit. Tell us about your history in working with horses. Have you and your sister worked with horses all your life?
My sister has. My sister has been a horse lover since she was 7 or 8.
What's her name?
Her name is Beth Canali. I had a little of the bug, but not quite as much as she does. And when we bought a ranch together in 2004 and decided to get that first pony that I talked about, and it just kind of began from there. She had horses also already, 5 or 6, but we really started the rehabilitation part at that point. So
awesome. And where is your ranch located, and how many acres do you have?
Now we're near Lockford. We used to be near Clayton, but we ran out of water on our property, so we moved out here. So we have lots of water. And we're near Lockford. We have 10 acres. And we have some of it for open grazing and some for horses that are in paddocks so they don't fight too much. So,
all right. And earlier I mentioned Cushing's. Do you want to talk about what Cushing's is, or I can talk about it, or we'll talk about it together?
You probably know more technically. But Cushing's is a disease of the adrenal gland, and I believe.
Or pituitary. It can be a couple of locations.
Yeah. And typically it's in older horses. It's seen with, it mostly presents with kind of long curly hair. Horses will get thickness on their neck called a cresty neck. And mostly it's diagnosed, of course, by blood test. And but it's that long hair or curly hair that's typically seen, and it is mostly older horses. And it's treated by medication. Again, it's not a death sentence by any means. We have one horse that we've had on medication called Pergolide for about 10 years.
Awesome.
And he's doing pretty well. He's getting pretty old now, but he's doing pretty well.
And in dogs, it's interesting because we would diagnose it because they're drinking a lot or urinating a lot. They tend to look pot-bellied. They'll lose their hair. And they often will pant. And it's a disease where the body makes too much steroid. And because of that, the steroid goes in and can destroy tissue and cause a lot of other issues. But it's interesting that it looks different in a horse than a dog. I just find that fascinating. So since you have had the ranch, how many horses have you rescued, and what happens to those horses when you take them in?
So as many organizations do, we've evolved a bit. But we've taken in about 150 horses over the 13 years that we've been taking care of horses. We did start with more active cases that required rehabilitation, so with the Founder. And those take a lot. My sister and I both work full time, so they take a lot more time and a lot more of our energy and funds. So we had not as many horses at one time. But we've evolved as the issue with unwanted horses has gotten a little more great. People would say, I have these 3 horses, and they're about to, ship off for slaughter, or they're about to be given away to somebody that won't take good care of them, and they're unhandleable and they're unmanageable, but we just need someone who knows how to handle horses to take them. That happened with a a seizure in Orland, California. So we took 3 of what they called the wild ones, and we've taken care of them for about 8 or 10 years.
How wild are they?
Yeah, they're one of them we still can't really catch very easily. It's usually a 15, 20-minute process to catch her. She's very untrusting because she was abused. But now they're better, and we can actually handle them pretty well. So
That's awesome.
Horses that we have now tend to be long-term residents. We have mostly older horses who are not really suitable to place with someone. We do place occasional. We have a couple of young horses now that were nurse mare babies, and we've raised them, and now they're in training and going to be placed.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, they're
Excellent.
like 5. But
Do you
most
want to explain what the nurse mare is?
Sure. So it's a little complicated. Nurse mares are in the breeding world, mostly in Kentucky, but in other places as well. The very fancy high-end horses have babies, but they want to get the mares back in training and back in show quality immediately. So another set of horses are kept pregnant and deliver babies. And as soon as the fancy mare has her foal, they take that baby and put it with another mare and take her baby away from her. And so those babies are ditched off to rescues. There's one called, I think, Last Chance Corral, I think is their name, that takes care of most of those. And the babies are sold off on Craigslist for $100. Here, buy a horse and take care of it.
Crazy.
Yeah, so these babies, so the 2 that we have, we got shipped to us from Kentucky when they were like 3 days old. And we've raised them since as bottle babies, or they don't drink bottles, they drink from a bucket, but and raised them, and now they're just old enough really to go off for training. So yeah, and that's and we believe in not just placing a young horse when it's untrained, but we want it to have the basic foundation, because there are so many unwanted horses already that we want someone who's getting a horse to have a horse that knows what it's doing and at least started. So
And that'll be more likely to be a successful adoption.
Long-term adoption.
Yes,
That's right, because
that's
we don't
awesome.
want horses to change owners, too many times, because we didn't know what a green horse meant. You didn't know that it was coming and not ever had a saddle on its back. So
And it's dangerous too.
exactly.
Especially if someone adopts it that doesn't have training skills and isn't familiar with working with horses.
And horses are wonderful companions, and people who adopt horses, or who just buy a horse from a breeder or anything, they can really learn a lot from them. But a lot of people expect that their horse is going to be the perfect show horse and have perfect manners and never get sick or never hurt themselves. And when that happens, some people aren't prepared for that.
Definitely.
And that's when you'll see horses advertised on Craigslist for, here's $20, come pick up this horse.
Yes.
Because they don't know what to do with them. So we want to give the horse every chance to be a life partner that we can. So.
And I wasn't surprised that you knew the trainer that I work with, Anita Dayton of KISS, and she has the Rescue Hope for Horses. She's been on this show before. She has always talked to people about what is your goal for that horse, and then trying to find the breed that would be best suited for that particular skill. But just like people, horses have different personalities, and it depends on how much they've been handled and how much of a training foundation they have, and whether they're willing to do different things. I used to do endurance riding, and it's very difficult to find a horse who it has the drive, that wants to race and is willing to go fast, but yet at the same time will listen to you and yield to you when you don't want to go so fast.
Right.
And it's a challenge, and each horse is unique. To me, horses are amazing in terms of the bond that you develop with them, and it's unlike any other animal. To you, what's special about the horse, and what benefits do you think happen for people physically and mentally in working with horses?
Well, I've seen a lot of people. We don't have a therapeutic program, but there are ones. And
KISS has one.
Yeah, and there's an organization we know, Dream Power in Gilroy, that and they run amazing programs.
Doves is another one.
Yeah, and people can touch a horse and just calm down. I don't know how to explain how that happens, but it does. And even young children will be afraid, but then they pet their nose and they're just fascinated. I think because they're so big, but they're gentle for the most part. And they create a real bond. Some people are just attracted instantly. I remember when I was 20 years, 30 years ago, saw a horse in a barn and just had an instant attraction to that horse. And I didn't get to buy him, but it's a real unique, some people have that connection with their dogs. Most people do. And because they can sit in their lap and they can bond with them. But with a horse, they'll nicker and they will come up to you and they recognize you. They're very smart animals.
Yes.
It's, and others are just crazy, and you look at them and you say, where are you? But then that person or that horse will find its person and have a connection. So
it's a very individualized connection. And again, it depends on how much the horse has been handled and what the history is. Tell us more about your organization. I know you said that you're near Lockford. How can people find you? Do you have a website? Do you have a Facebook page?
We have a Facebook page, Founder Rehab Ranch. And we have a website, but it's in sad need of being redone, so it's not very good right now.
Maybe one of our listeners can reach out to you and help you with that.
That would be awesome. But we do most of our things through Facebook. We're in a because we do mostly right now, just sanctuary for the older horses. We do have the 2 or 3 younger ones. Our oldest resident is near 40. He's an awesome.
You brought a picture.
Yeah, he's his name is Bob Marley. To go up here. Does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's the darker one. He was a horse that had been, as we understand it, his history. He was a pack horse in Washington State for hunters, and then for whatever reason decided they didn't need him anymore. Maybe they thought he was getting old. He probably was getting old. He was probably 22, 23, 24. And so he was on a slaughter lot, a feed lot in Washington State, and we saw him and rescued him, brought him down to live with us to live the rest of his life. And we did ride him for a little while on trail rides. He's steady as can be. And now he's just allowed to live the rest of his time with us, and he just grazes around with his buddy Sundance, and they can eat grass that's out on the pasture, and mostly he can't eat hay really anymore because he doesn't have very good teeth, so he eats pelleted feed and just lives a happy life. Doesn't have any responsibilities.
Wonderful. And that's great because he would have been slaughtered otherwise had you not taken him in. How are you funded?
We're funded mostly by private donations. Most of those come from my sister and myself. We do get some corporate grants where one thing that we haven't mastered as well as we probably should have is the donations from organizations and having a fundraising platform, but we've always gotten by. We do, manage to keep things going. We have done some fundraisers over the years. We're working on planning something for later in the fall, maybe a dinner of some sort. We've had trail rides that we've done as fundraisers and had a couple of wine and equine events, but so we're working on planning something for the fall.
And you are a 501c3?
Yes, we are.
Awesome.
Yep.
And besides financial assistance, how can community members help you? Can you list some supplies that would help? Are you looking for volunteers besides someone to help you with your website?
We do have some volunteers that come out. It has to be on the weekends because we are working during the week. Weekends we have occasionally have a volunteer that comes out. People can come out and help with grooming. We'd ask that they call first because obviously it's at our residence. We can always use, and I'll put a link up on our Facebook page for fundraising for hay. As you can imagine, we go through a lot of hay. We buy the truckload about every 3 months, and that's pretty expensive. And also the pelleted feed, and wormers and that sort of thing.
How about halters?
Halters, we've got ropes. Yeah, we're in the process. Well, we do take donation of tax sometimes and sell it on eBay to raise money. Also, we're in the middle of doing that right now. So,
grooming supplies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Buckets,
always buckets. Yeah,
okay.
And lead ropes.
Awesome.
It seems like those things always break. So.
And how does someone call you? You mentioned that someone should call you if they're going to come out and volunteer.
Yeah, so they can call my cell phone, which is 510-219-0101, or my sister, and that's 510-219-3717. Her name is Beth.
And I just think this is so neat that you guys are doing this together. That makes it very special, or I would think that would make that very special.
Kind of a family affair. My sister has 2 daughters who are now both in college, and they've grown up with it also because it's been so long. So they've been helping with the horses since they were young, and the bug bit them. So one wants to go to veterinary school, and the other one's graduating Cal Poly and wants to go to med school. So they've both got the medical bugs. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And do you want to share some more success stories? I know you brought more pictures.
Well, our probably our first what would I say, challenging case was a young horse, Sundance. I'll put up a picture of him here. Sundance was also on a slaughter lot, and he was about 9 months old. And
keep it up there because it's gonna change.
Oh, okay.
It changed to me, but
and he's a Haflinger, which is the kind of horse. He was in Washington State also. Do you want it? And he had a clubfoot, which I have a picture of too. His foot, and right, okay, there we go. He said here. So he
put it closer. Oh,
closer.
It just changed.
Okay, there you go. So Sundance had a disorder where he not a disorder, but called a clubfoot. So his hoof, instead of sitting flat, was kind of buckled forward, and so he'd been also shipped off for slaughter. So we brought him down from Washington and immediately took him to UC Davis to evaluate the leg. While he was there for his initial consultation, we found out he had a horrible case of pneumonia. So we treated that first, and then they did a really small procedure to clip one tendon in the back of his leg, which allowed us to put special shoes on him. And that took about 2 years of special shoeing to get the foot to completely lay flat. So that he's the other horse that was in the picture with Bob Marley. We decided that we could have placed him pretty easily because he's a really good breed. But he became so close to us that we had to keep him as a mascot. And we've had him at any events that we do where we go in the public. We had him at Tractor Supply and Ripon once and had him in the store.
Wow.
Because you can bring your dogs in the store, so they let us bring the horse in the store.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he's a pretty special little guy. And, I mean, he's not little anymore. He's
How
pretty
old
big.
is he now?
He's about 15. So we've had him since we just first started. And or maybe he's 13.
Awesome.
But
Tractor Supply, we should give them a shout out. I know that they have allowed for events for Hope for Horses, the location in Galt, and they are just a strong part of the community.
They are awesome. And when this was a number of years ago, they didn't have the one in Galt, I don't think, but Ripon was newly open, and they were so supportive and so nice, and they were having people come inside and buy bags of food to give us, and they gave us a bunch of food. And
that's great.
They're an awesome supporter of animals and the people that take care of them. So because they recognize,
cool.
Yeah. So Sundance was is a very special and indicative of what to us, a horse that's a young horse that was on a slaughter lot, that there was no reason for it in our opinion, and he could have been treated by the people that had him and fixed up pretty easily. So the vet that did the surgery said it was like it took a day, and but it took 2 years of special work to get him back to not being lame.
Well, and that's not an unusual case. Unfortunately, there's so many horses that are abandoned or taken to slaughter for minor issues, or for people moving to an area where they can't bring their horses. And it's unfortunate. I see that in the dog world all the time. It's just that it's on such a bigger scale, because obviously for a horse, you have to have land where you can care for that horse, and it's expensive.
Right. It is expensive. And, it's an expensive for people who can't keep their horse. There aren't a lot of alternatives. And, not that it's good when people take a dog to the shelter and say, here, I need to surrender my aunt. But there are no shelters, for horses. And so there are, that's when ungood situations arise, because people say, well, good, you'll take my horse, and they don't ask where it's going or what's going to happen. There are I don't want to talk only about the negative things, but there are about 150,000 horses a year that go off for slaughter.
That's a huge amount of horses.
It's huge, and there are a lot of unwanted horses, and that's probably because there's too much breeding of horses that aren't high quality, and so
same as in the dog world.
Yeah. So it carries over. It's just on a physically bigger scale. So,
yes.
And there are a little less alternatives. Well, we like to support programs that we haven't had one at our house for a long time, but support gelding programs that there are people who do low-cut gelding, is when you neuter a male horse. It's not really easy to do the females, but the males can be done pretty easily.
Very easily.
And it's really something that needs to just be done. I mean, unless it's a super high quality stallion, then fine, but otherwise, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't like to geld their horses, and so then accidents occur.
And it's hard because and accidents, you mean by breeding, but accidents, physical accidents can occur too, because the stallions are much harder to handle with the hormone influence. And if someone isn't skilled in working with a horse that's intact, they can get injured easily.
That's right. We haven't dealt with a lot of pregnant horses, but we did have one a few years ago that some people had their 28-year-old mare in with their 32-year-old stallion, and she got pregnant.
Which is unusual. That's surprising.
That she was so old.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, we don't have anywhere to foal her out. So we did take her. And delivered a beautiful, beautiful little baby and raised him. But, that's not something we normally do. There are people who specialize in pregnant mare rescue. But it is fun when that happens. And
can you talk about the expenses associated with having a horse? In most areas, you need to have at least 2 acres of land. But do you want to talk about what the feed costs and such to keep a horse for a year?
Yeah, so I'd have to do a little calculating in my head, but when you feed high quality hay, to a horse. A bale costs anywhere from $15 to $20. And even by the truckload, if you buy high quality hay, it costs a lot of money. And we give our horses maybe a fifth of we may feed ours too much sometimes, but maybe a fifth of a bale of hay a day. So it is. I mean, a truckload of hay can cost us $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 plus transportation. And like I said, we go through a truckload about every 90 days. So, and plus horses need access, of course, to water all the time. So if you don't get free water, as we do with our well, you have to have water. They need worming, and so that gets done about every 90 days. And other vaccines. We're lucky we have a program with the equine professionals that give free vaccines to us.
Awesome.
So that helps with that expense. But that's something horses need. They have to be treated for West Nile virus and so forth. So it's, people.
And shoes.
And for ones that need it. Yeah, they need their feet done. Yeah. We have an awesome trimmer and farrier that we work with and have he's the one that started at the same time with our Sundance, and he does an awesome job and has with us for about 15 years.
Great.
Yeah. So, but
and their teeth.
And their teeth. Yeah, we just had that done last week. So it's more than people think. They think, oh, well, I've got a horse. I can just put them out on some grass and off they go. But they don't get grass. They can't eat just grass that's out in the pasture all the time. And there's usually not at some point, and later in the summer, things dry up. So
And they need grain, depending on the horse.
some of them do. Yeah, we kind of have the less is more philosophy. So we do have a couple that get some supplemental grain, but for the most part, we just let them, get hay. If they can eat hay, then we give them hay. If they need pelleted feed because they can't their teeth don't work right, then we give them pelleted feed.
Well, it's amazing. It sounds like you have a wonderful facility, and it's phenomenal that people care so much that they're willing to open up their home and set up a ranch to be able to help animals so that they are not euthanized.
Well, thank you. It's a labor of love, and it's something that we enjoy doing. We enjoy taking care, and the horses I know appreciate it. They can't tell us that all the time, but it is something that we do because these horses, we have 22 right now that we care for.
Wow.
Those 22 horses, and we have some of, that are personal horses too. So, but those 22 rescue horses do appreciate that we're giving them a good quality of life, and
that's awesome.
And we'll give them a good end to their life when that time comes.
Do you want to share your contact information again, your website, your Facebook page, phone numbers?
Sure. Peggy Hetlage, and it's Founder Rehab Ranch. The best place is on Facebook, and I will get some more updated pictures up there. We're the same old horses, the same old pictures, but people do like to see updates.
Definitely.
And my phone number is 510-219-0101, and I will put a link for fundraisers, or we do have, for PayPal donations would be awesome. We'd really appreciate it.
Great. And your sister's contact info?
Is Beth, and it's 510-219-3717.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It's been amazing hearing what you and your sister have done and how many horses' lives you've saved.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I am the voice of Stockton. You are the voice of Stockton. We are the voice of Stockton. Make it a great day.